because you're always like, it's always.
There's a gift to not thinking straight.
Tell me.
So let's watch two people who think there's a gift to not thinking straight, not think straight.
So things are more dangerous now.
I think they are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Things are more dangerous now. I think they are. Things are definitely not more dangerous at all. All violence across the entire globe is significantly down. If you look at any statistics over the course of hundreds or thousands of years, rape, murder, war, everything is down. Every generation is safer than the one before. So these guys are just saying this as they're sitting in a podcast room, which, you wouldn't be sitting in 1,000 years ago.
I think so, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, we were just talking about the wildfire situation and how crazy it is that they spent $24 billion last year on the homeless.
Yeah.
And what did they spend on preventing these wildfires?
Zero.
Zip.
All right, so those numbers are obviously incorrect. Just making this stuff up, which is bizarre. Why not pull up the numbers? I'll say, look, you've got a show. Bring up the data. Let us see what the actual data is. Let's see here. Okay, so let's see what we're doing. In 2024, 2025, California spent $4.2 billion for fire prevention and $1.75 billion on homeless. So they're flat out lying to you. Like, this is just either, all right, are they dumb or are they been scammed or are they lying to you? In this case, I'm going to go with they're flat out lying to you because Rogan runs a podcast. He's got a computer in front of him. He could have looked it up. Most likely, if he's professional, he does look this stuff up. So he saw 1.75 for homeless and 4.2 billion for fire prevention and just decided to tell people different numbers. So in this case, he's flat out lying. He's scamming you.
And in 2019, I think Newsom said, I'm going to take care of the forests and maintain the forests and do all that kind of stuff. He didn't do anything.
And then on top of that, they cut the water off.
Again, like, these are just flat out lies, saying that he didn't do anything when you're seeing $4 billion a year being spent on fire prevention. You can't say he did nothing. You can't say he cut the water off. That's a total scam that everybody's aware is a total scam. Yes, I'm sure they heard this and were scammed. They're both pretty dumb guys. But Rogan owns his own podcast. Like, unless he's a terrible, terrible podcaster, he or someone in his group would have looked this up just to see if it was correct or not and would have seen it. And then he decided to be like, I'm just going to flat out lie to my listeners.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's all funny. And then I think all our tax dollars probably went for Gavin's hair gel. I don't know, but it's like, it's sad. It's like the place is just
You have
on
hair
fire.
gel in your hair.
Well, the whole state is just so poorly managed. It's so frustrating and confusing. And
right, the whole state is poorly managed. Like, this is just something, it's very vague. He didn't say necessarily how. If we look at California, it is the most profitable state in the United States. They hold almost every record that you could imagine for the size that they are versus the money that they bring in versus their crime versus this versus that. You could say it's poorly managed, but you'd have to say it's one of the best managed. Then you're saying the entire country is poorly managed, right? Because if California has better stats than any other state, you can still say it's poorly managed, but you still have to admit it's the best managed out of all the poorly managed states then.
And then he gets on TV and pretends like everything's great.
Mm-hmm.
And California's the best. We have the best state. We have the most amazing economy. And like, you're out of your fucking mind, dude. You've ruined this state. Like, personally ruined it.
Well, it's the same team.
Personally ruined it. Let's check that out. Let's see if he's actually personally ruined the economy, they're saying specifically. So let's check and see what the economy. Okay, so when Newsom took over running California, their GDP was 2.75 billion a year. It has grown to 4.17, making it now the 5th wealthiest country in the entire world. So there are only 4 countries that are generating more money than California alone. The job growth has increased since he's taken over. Again, you know, this is the flat out lies is what this is. Like, this is just a person who's definitely just lying to you. Because they would have looked this up. You can't go, oh, it was 2.75 trillion when he took, like, imagine if you hired a new CEO for Apple and you were like, oh, when he took over, we were doing $2.75 trillion a year in revenue, and now we're doing 4.17. He's completely ruined the company. By what? Increasing revenue by 33%. That's higher than that, right? 66%, whatever that would be. It's just a flat out lie. They're lying.
It was up in San Francisco, and then they came down to L.A., and they're doing what they did in San Francisco. And San Francisco's kind of like apocalyptic now, you know.
Yeah.
I went there, and it's just like people, you know, homeless. You know, it's a mess.
It's just unbelievable that society can crumble that quickly.
Mm-hmm.
It really is unbelievable.
It doesn't take long.
Again, crumble that quickly. I don't understand what they're talking about. They're just making stuff up. Now, certainly, like I said, they've definitely been scammed, these guys. I know for a fact that Joe Rogan is highly targeted by scammers. He falls for scams constantly. Mel Gibson, I'm sure you can tell by the way he talks that he spends a lot of time on those websites that we write fake news for, because he's repeating stories that I myself made up in the office, where I'm sitting around going, oh, this sounds like a dumb story some idiot will fall for. And then he's there saying, oh, guess what I just read? Like, who falls for that? It's the dumbest story ever. So definitely there's a mix of these guys being gullible and being taken advantage of. But again, because Joe Rogan is a podcaster, he must either be the worst, like, person at his job ever, or he looked this stuff up and has chosen just to lie to his audience.
No.
Yeah. I read a book once by Jared Diamond, and with no regard for himself, hear these stories. Could I do that? Could I be that person? Be in an extreme situation.
Right.
But hearing about other people and how they behave in situations that are difficult is very inspiring. So, you know, it's... yeah, there's so many of those stories around, and through history.
Well, that's another.
And see, you can tell by his mentality there that he's prime for scamming. Like, I can already tell you how his brain works and what kind of stuff that he's into. And this is what I was saying. If you write, these people crave terrible stories. They want to hear about someone getting hurt or something bad happening to someone, and then a hero coming in and saving them. So you fake these stories, and these people just love it. They want to hear a fake story about some foreigner coming in to rob a 7-Eleven, and some, like, red-blooded American thwarts the robbery. So you just write the fake story, and these guys eat it up.
The unique thing about human beings is that we learn from others in a very extraordinary way. And that's one of the reasons why we like stories. Yeah. Why we like myths and fables, because there's lessons you can apply to your own life.
See, he's basically admitting that he loves fables, and that's what these people like, where, you know, they live for it, where most people hear like a fable when they're a child, and then they become an adult and realize, geez, that's kind of a dumb story. Like, that obviously didn't happen. It was clearly written for a child to teach a child a really simple thing. And these guys grow up and they don't get out of that child mindset. Like, he's still thinking like a little child,
without having to actually go through those things.
Yeah. Well, that's right. I made a film about that guy, Desmond Doss. You know, I don't know if you saw it. It was like Hacksaw Ridge. It was this film, and it was about a medic who figured so much killing going on, he's going to go into the battlefield and save lives. And he didn't have a weapon. And he was in the...
I'm not going to mention... Well, I am going to mention... But we notice in our field that a lot, very high percentage of people who fall, gullible people, who will fall for ridiculous stories, kitty litter boxes in schools, often tend to have a very high percentage of drug abuse. And there's people a lot smarter than me who can tell you the reason that your brain works that way. It's that addictive personality thing. People who are more likely to fall for a scam are also more likely to become dependent on drugs. And for the same basic reason, it's all about that. First, it's all about that fitting in thing. Everybody else is doing it, so I'm going to do it. I don't want to stand alone and say no, so I'm going to do what everybody else seems to be doing. I don't want to get made fun of by my peers if I say I don't want to do this. I want to look cool, and all the cool kids are doing this. And then the next thing you know, they're addicted.
Worst place on earth. And he got a Congressional Medal of Honor because he kept going in to the worst place possible and dragging wounded guys out. With no regard for himself. I mean, who does that kind of stuff?
Right.
And over again. He didn't just do it once. He did it hundreds of times. He finally got, hit with shrapnel and a bunch of other stuff, but he lived to be an old man. But wow. And it was just pure faith, So, those guys, that's
the other thing, pure faith. Let's look the person up. I mean, you might look the person up and then find out that person had no faith at all. Maybe they're an atheist. These people are projecting again. Everybody must think the same way I do. They see a great person. They want to believe that they are a great person too. So they assume the great person must be exactly like them. And that's, you're trying to manifest yourself into this person that you think is a hero. Instead of thinking they're such a hero, you want to think how that could have been you because you guys are so similar. But you don't bother looking up to find out that they're probably nothing like you.
Those kind of stories inspire the hell out of me. Anyway.
So, back to this idea of evolution. So,
this is going to be great.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe that evolution exists in animals?
How's that even two adults can't have a conversation where one adult asks the other adult that question? That is ridiculous. I mean, that's ridiculous. This is like Desperate Housewives. No, not Desperate Housewives. Whatever those housewives shows are type of thing. This is ridiculous. Someone's writing this script for Joe because he's not going to ask that question. That's not a real thing someone would ask another full-grown adult.
But do you think there's some sort of a natural selection process, or do you think that it is all intelligent design?
It's weird too, because look at it. He's really thinking about it, Mel Gibson. Like, let me put some thought in it. Why are you asking him? He's a TV actor who clearly isn't all that brilliant. So why would it's like, oh, we have this guy on who, I don't know, let's say he works at Subway. And then you're like, hey, how do you think the safest way to run a nuclear power plant is? Like, what a dumb question to ask this guy, except for the fact that I think Joe's setting him up. Joe must know, his producers probably know that Mel's a little loopy, and they're setting him up to say some stupid stuff so that listeners will laugh at him.
Well, I think everything was created, right? And maybe things do move on and adapt and change through time, but I think that that's a function of an intelligence also. And, look at the fires in L.A., what's that going to do? It's going to give me a new house, maybe.
Maybe.
And
or a new place to live.
Yeah.
What is that even supposed to mean? Is that one of the most evil things you've ever heard someone say? What is people lost their homes? And he's like, it's going to get me a new, so God burned his house down so he could get a new, I don't understand what he's saying, but she's coming across like the fact that God burned all these people's homes down to help Mel Gibson get a brand new house that he didn't need in the first place. That's so bizarre.
Something. Yeah, I'm just not totally convinced. I feel it in my, and I can't really, I'm sorry, I can't intellectually tell you why I don't believe in evolution, but I don't.
You can't intellectually tell anybody anything. There's no intellect there to use. At least he's honest about the fact that he doesn't have any intellect to fall back on. He's just wildly guessing. He's hunching and guessing. He's at least admitting it. So knowing that, Don't listen to what this guy says.
It's just a feeling. I don't think I was some ape, or I don't think my ancestors were. I think they had to be.
What? Did he go to school? Does he think he used to be an ape? I mean, I know he switched it and then he said his ancestors, but of course your ancestors weren't apes, and neither were you. Like, what? A fifth grader would understand this more than you. This is bizarre. He's got to be faking. Although he might have something wrong with him mentally. I mean, we've seen videos of him acting very bizarre. He could have something wrong mentally in his head. And gives him a little, like, less of an understanding of a normal person.
Pretty smart to survive.
So what do you think all these pre-human hominids are that they keep?
Wait a second here.
Discover to survive. Ape. Or I don't think my ancestors were. I think they had to be pretty smart to survive.
So
I think they had to be pretty smart to survive. Therefore, they couldn't have been apes because apes didn't survive. What kind of apes are around right now? They survived longer than humans have survived. What?
What do you think all these pre-human hominids are that they keep discovering?
Like, what? Tell me what a pre-human hominid
Like
is.
Australopithecus,
right.
or some of the other human-like creatures that never made it, like Denisovans, Neanderthals.
Yeah, stuff like that. Okay, well, they've got something called Zinjanthropus. You remember him?
No.
Zinjanthropus, man. And he was like, he looked kind of like this. But he was like, they looked at it, and they did some core samples on it, and it was put out there by people advocating evolution, and they discovered that it was a human skull attached to the jaw of an ape.
Oh.
So here, he's just confusing something, right? He clearly must get his information from these scam websites. Zinjanthropus man, or whatever he's talking about, was a real thing. It wasn't a hoax. It wasn't a person's skull with a jaw, like he said. It was an offshoot of humans. It wasn't actually related to us humans. What he's confusing it probably with is something called like Piltdown Man or something like that. In like 1912 or whatever in England, someone just famously tried to fake, people do this all the time, right? Like they'll mix a rabbit head with a deer body or something and whatever. You're talking about like traveling show type stuff. He took this, he must have heard the story, or maybe he read, like, people who write scam stories sometimes will take a real scam that existed and then place it into a story. So some scammer probably read the real story of Zinjanthropus man or whatever, remembered the scam, and then wrote a fake article claiming that this new thing was this scam from 1912, and Mel Gibson's not going to be like, wait a minute, that sounds exactly like this scam that they did in 1912. Sounds like someone's rehashing that. Scam artists will do that all the time. They'll take actual scams that existed and repurpose them for a modern story. And when you work in my field, you'll hear the same story attributed to 50 different things. It's similar, but not in the same way, with like the kitty litter box stories. Everybody swears that happened in their town, right? Like, no, that happened in my town. No, it happened in my. So someone in Florida is like, no, it happened in Florida. Someone in Michigan's like, no, it happened in Michigan. In this case, you're trying to write a fake story. Like, I'll see something in the news about this early man being found, and then a client will come out, conservative group, and they're like, hey, we want you to fake this story and say somehow that it's not really a primitive man that they found, because, we want to preserve the Bible or whatever. So I'll take the actual story and I'll rip it apart, and then I'll take this existing scam that existed from a long time ago, and I'll mix the two stories together and then publish it as if this person just got busted doing this thing that was really done in 1912 in a totally unrelated thing. And for sure, Mel Gibson was on one of these scam websites, read this story that someone like me wrote, and he fell for it because he didn't bother to look it up. I mean, if he had just Googled it, it would have come right up and said that he was confusing two different stories.
I do remember
So it was
this.
a hoax.
Yeah, there's been some hoaxes.
Yeah.
I do remember this, he says. That's another thing that people love to do, and we use that a lot in our field. We'll write a fake story, and then people will go out and tell that story, and because of peer pressure, you don't want to be left out, and you'll say, oh, yeah, I heard that too. And now anybody, the third person, and there's like, holy crap, 2 people heard that? And then they'll say, yeah, me too. And then the fourth person will be like, oh my God, 3 people said they heard this. When in reality, only the first person saying it. The other people are just agreeing with them because they feel peer pressured into it. Joe Rogan didn't hear this story too. He's lying.
Yeah, but there's also been real stuff.
Really?
Yeah. You don't think so?
Well, maybe.
Well, what do you...
Well, you know, like, I don't know, tell me.
Well, what was that one that we looked at the other day that was one of the first pre-humans that buried their young, or buried their dead, rather? It was a Homo naldi. What was it? Remember that? I can't remember how to say it, but... No lady, yeah. There's a pre-human hominid, very small creature that buried their young, or buried their dead, rather. I keep saying buried their young. They buried their dead. You know, Australopithecus. There's a bunch of different, you know, the Lucy skeleton. There's a bunch of different pre-human hominids.
Yeah, maybe they were monkeys. I don't know. You know.
Yeah.
But
well, there's.
This is another thing, and this is when you could tell someone's easy to scam. When someone says, I don't know, but also I do know, then you can scam them. They're like, I know you're wrong. I don't know what it is, but then I also know what it is. That's the UFO thing, right? They'll see something that someone describes as an unidentified flying object, and they're like, oh my God, that person said it's unidentified. I know that it's an alien from another planet. Why are you saying that? Well, because it's unidentified. So now I can make up whatever story I want. But if you're just making the story up, then you're admitting you don't know what it is. He should have just stopped with, I don't know. I would need to read the paper written on this. I would need to learn more on the topic. And then I would be able to say anything about it. But he says, I don't know. Maybe it was a monkey. But he's not saying maybe it was a monkey. He's saying in his head, it was a monkey. I don't know. I've never heard of this before. I don't know anything about it. But now I'm going to tell you that the experts were wrong and it was really monkeys. And I know more than the experts know without even looking at it, without even knowing what you're talking about. And I could have just made up a story to him. I could have been, what about Mastrolopithecus, this story about whatever? And he would be like, oh, I know that story. And it was monkeys. Like, it's just flat out lying. And it's dangerous.
Similar to us, just not where we are.
Yeah.
They're on the road to becoming what it means to be a human being.
Yeah. I don't know.
What do you think those are?
I don't know. They could be animals. Or
it could be animals, like humans are animals. Does he not know he's an animal? And no, Joe, they're not on the road to becoming us. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of how evolution works. You don't turn into something else. You know, that species doesn't disappear. Like, I don't have a baby one day and it's a fish. That isn't how evolution works at all. And because they have a misunderstanding of it, it sounds ridiculous in their brain because it is ridiculous in their brain because they're misunderstanding how it is. And then they're just making something up that would fit whatever makes them feel the most comfortable.
they could be like, look at today. I mean, you can get some mosquito can bite you and your kid can be born with a malformed skull or something. It's like, they have those,
Yeah, but this is like a genetic thing. Like they've mapped the genome of these creatures.
Oh, they have?
They're different. Yeah.
Well, I don't know how to
No, and I'm pretty sure they have not mapped the genome of this creature. That is most probably not true at all. It's so funny to watch two people who don't know anything what they're talking about pretend like they know what they're It'd be like if I sat down with one of my friends and we talked about how difficult it is to fly a fighter, like an F-15. And we just sat down, like neither one of us have ever flown an airplane at all. And we just sat down over a coffee and we were both like, yeah, man, flying an F-15, it's the worst. Oh, yeah, right, the G's and how the seatbelt fits. And like, you're just completely making up a conversation that neither one of you know anything about. It's bizarre.
explain those, Joe. I don't know.
But you do think that human beings were created by God.
I do. Yeah.
When do you think that happened?
When? Oh, probably, and not that long ago.
So here's another thing. He has no idea. But instead of saying, I don't have any idea, he's never thought about this before. He's just thought that this is true, that it hasn't been that long ago. So when he goes, when Joe goes, how long ago was it? And he goes, geez, you see him very quickly. He's like, I've never really thought about this. Give me 1.5 seconds to come up with an answer. And then he goes, I don't know, this amount of time. But he's just guessing. Like he didn't have an idea. He didn't research. He didn't think about it until he was asked. And instead of saying, I've never actually thought about it, he felt pressured to come up with an answer in 1 second. So he gave it literally like 1.5 seconds to think about, and then decided he's got an answer.
No, not really.
Yesterday.
Like, what do you mean by not that long ago?
Probably only about 8,000 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
So what do you think things like Göbekli Tepe are when they find these constructions that are carbon dated to 11,000 plus years old?
I question carbon dating.
Really?
Yeah.
Of course he does. Of course he does. He doesn't know what it is. He doesn't know anything about it. But he questions it. Imagine I'll make up another word. I'll just be like, I invented a crispamplina phone. And then you were like, I don't think that's what you think it is. And I'm like, I just made that word up, and you completely... What? It's ridiculous. I hate this. I hate when people here's a good example. Imagine an astronomer saying, we've discovered a comet, and it's traveling at 53,000 miles an hour, and it's going to hit Earth. And then someone goes, no, it's not. And they're like, I don't own a telescope. I've never seen a comet before. I have not seen this comet ever. But I can tell you that their math is wrong. Did you see their math? No. But it's actually traveling at 52,000 miles an hour, and it's going to slightly miss Earth. What is? I don't know. Whatever comet they were talking about. Well, what comet is it? I don't remember the name. Where in the sky is it? I don't know where it is. But you're positive it's going to miss Earth? Yes, I'm positive it's going to miss Earth. He doesn't know anything about carbon dating. But yet he knows that it's incorrect. What kind of gall do these people have?
Well, that makes things a lot simpler.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of money in claims, and I don't know.
Really?
There's a lot of money in claims, and that makes so much sense.
Water's there. Yeah. Well, carbon dating seems to be pretty rock solid studies.
Yeah.
I mean, the science behind radiocarbon dating and detecting carbon isotopes. It's like, that's pretty legit.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't square it.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to.
And I don't have to. And what difference is it going to make to me?
Yeah, that's the thing. It doesn't make a difference in terms of your experience in this life on Earth.
No.
Like you can have your faith and your ideas and live a great life from beginning to end, and it might not suit you to really.
And I just I look at all sorts of stuff like that, the icebergs melting and the water overflowing.
It's not.
Ever have it?
It's not, he says. I haven't gone to, I don't know where. Name an iceberg, Joe. Name a single iceberg. Tell me where it is. He's like, I don't know. I've never seen an iceberg. Never heard of them before. I always bring up this thing where, imagine an explorer traveling to Africa back in the day and coming back with this fantastic story of a giraffe. And he draws it and he goes, this is what the thing looked like. And of course it's going to sound ridiculous, right? It's like no one's ever seen something that looks like a giraffe. So it would have been mind-boggling. And of course people would be like, hey, that sounds crazy. I need to see evidence of this. But then there are some people that are like, nope, you didn't see that. And it's not called a giraffe. It's called a rhinoceros. And it's not 18 feet tall. They're only 6 feet tall. Oh, you've seen one? No, but I'm going to correct you on it. It's bizarre.
Glass full of ice and watched it melt. Did you ever see the glass flow over?
No.
Takes up less room, Watch it melting and the water overflowing.
It's not.
Ever have a glass full of ice and watched it melt? Did you ever see the glass flow over?
No.
Takes up less room, you know.
Yeah.
Not even he's done that. He goes, have you ever had a glass full of ice and watched it melt? Does it flow over? He hasn't even done that because it doesn't take up less room. If you had ice in a glass of water filled to the brim and let the ice melt, it would not take up less room. It would not flow over, but it would not take up less room. But I mean, take a glass of water that's full to the top and then hold a piece of ice over it and let it melt into it. Of course it's going to overflow. You're not talking about ice in the water, Mel. No scientist on Earth would think that the ice in the ocean, if it melts, is going to raise the ocean level. That's absurd. But you're now talking about water that's on the land that you're putting into. You're telling me that if you took he thinks if he took a second glass of water and dumped it into the first one would never overflow. That's essentially what he's saying. He's like, if you had a glass filled to the top brim of it, and then you took a glass of ice and dumped that new glass of ice into the water, it would not overflow. What a moron. This guy's dumb. He's really dumb.
You know, the hot greenhouse, whatever.
Well, there's a lot of horse shit that's involved in climate change for sure. I've studied that, and I've had many discussions over the last 4 years.
Did you hear that? I've studied that, which of course he hasn't. And then is he going to say I talked about it or I taught it? Maybe I've had discussions about it. But no, he doesn't know anything about global warming. I guarantee you he doesn't know anything about it. He doesn't know anything about anything.
The problem with anything is that once a narrative gets established and then there's a profit attached to the solution to that narrative.
Yes.
And that's green energy and green energy bills, and then there's businesses that are wrapped around there. And then there's also this fear that they love to pump into people about climate change, that, you know, they terrify the shit out of young people that we're going to destroy the world.
This is bizarre for a million different reasons. First off, if you have a smoke detector in your house, are you buying into fear mongering? If someone goes, hey, look, you know, fires cause this much death, put a smoke detector in your house. It will help. If someone says, look, don't run your car in the garage with the door closed, you will die because the car is giving off toxic fumes. That's just educating people on it. These are poisonous fumes that are coming out of the car. He knows this. There's no way he would sit in his garage, with the car running. There's no way. He's fully aware that there are bad things coming out of it. He wouldn't dump gasoline into a swimming pool and then go swimming in it. But he's okay with it being dumped into a lake or a river or something. Like, these people are bizarre. Like, it's okay to run the car outside, but he wouldn't want it running in his house. So he clearly knows that these are toxic. He can't get his brain around a simple concept. It's ridiculous. And the idea that there's money in it, this blows my mind. Who possibly thinks you could Google right now any of, let's say, the biggest, solar producer in the United States and see how much money they're worth? And then Google how much money the biggest oil producer in the United States is worth and see if they're even remotely close. His argument is that these super multi-trillion-dollar startup solar companies have so much more money than these itty-bitty oil conglomerates that they can fake all of this data to hurt the oil companies because they have way more money than the oil company. Like, you're not even thinking about what you're saying before you're saying it. You're just repeating something I told you to say without even thinking that it doesn't make any sense at all.
Climate change, you must act now, and then you become beholden to the political party that is espousing these ideas, and then your enemy is the deniers of this science, even though you don't even understand the science.
Yeah.
And did you see the Washington Post article that they published recently about temperature change on Earth?
No.
Well, there's a like what they've realized is over the last, X amount of thousands of years that the temperature on Earth is plummeting.
Yeah.
And it's dropping. And then when they look at the dips, this is the most important thing for anybody that's really freaked out about climate change. there's no static temperature of Earth ever. There's never been a time where it maintains a temperature until human beings came along and fucked it all up. That is just not real. Before human beings ever existed, if you trust these core samples, there's been a giant rise and fall and this constant dip. There it is.
Yeah.
Scientists have captured.
Oh, this is great. So he will look something up. So he didn't do this before when he was lying about the stuff that he said about how much. Why not Google it? Why not look that up? He's going to bring this up, and he's going to be way wrong about it, because this Washington Post article actually says that it's getting, like, he's just reading the tagline, right? Here's the surprising place we stand now. So in his brain, this is a great way of writing too, because if you're the writer of this, whether you're making it a fake story or a real story, you're still trying to get readers. So you know that half the people reading this are going to want to hear one thing and the other half are going to want to hear the other. So you want the headline to speak to both parties. So here's the surprising place we stand now. If you believe in climate change, you're going to be like, whoa, it must be really high. He's a climate change denier, so he's going to be like, oh, look, they're proving that it's actually really low. And he'll probably just read the headline. And that's what a lot of people do. We know that like a huge percentage, something like 80 to 90% of people who read news articles only read the headline. But the headlines are written in such a way to attract both groups, to make it sound like you're saying two things at the same time. Because if they were like, and it's hotter than ever, then half the people are going to read it. If it's colder than ever, then half the people are going to read it. But if you just say, the surprising place we stand now, half of them are going to be like, yeah, see, it's way hotter than we thought it was. I'm going to read this. Oh, see, it's way colder than I thought it was. I'm going to read this. And then they fall for they decide what they think the article's going to say. And I guarantee you that's what's going to happen here. Because this article, 100% of it talks about how global warming is real and humans are increasing the temperature of Earth and blah, 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 blah. But I bet you that he never read it. He just read the headline and pretended the rest of it in his head.
Earth's climate over the last 485 million years. Here's a surprising place we stand now. Look at the dip at the end.
Whoa.
That's where we are.
Yeah. Now look, you can even see that dip at the end. There's a massive jump at the end of it, right? Now you're scrolling in. You're talking 485 million years or whatever. So that little dip is probably just the last, 100 years or so, right? So what he's showing is that while Earth was cooling, as soon as humans started their industrial age, look at it skyrocket up. You don't see anywhere else on the map that, well, I guess you do a little bit earlier around here or so where it goes kind of straight up again. But who knows what caused that? Could have been a meteorite that caused that. And yes, it does go all over the place. But the thing that you need to understand is when it was this hot, life couldn't exist on Earth. This is all too hot, or at least not modern life. I mean, at one point, the entire Earth was molten lava. So he's saying since the Earth was once molten lava, it could go back to molten lava right now and we'd all be fine. That's absurd. What is he trying to say? It's that scenario where since people die naturally, it's impossible to actually kill someone. It doesn't make sense. Like to say that, yes, you can raise global temperatures. They can raise naturally by like an asteroid smashing into Earth or 5 billion volcanoes exploding at the same time can cause these. That's like saying, nuclear reactions happen naturally in the sun. So that means it's okay to detonate a nuclear bomb on Earth. Like, what is he saying? It's ridiculous. Plus, he doesn't see that spike at the end there.
That's reality.
Okay.
And then if you look at the course of history, you look at the rise and fall, like it's never a straight line. Way before human beings ever existed, if you believe these silly people. Way before human beings had ever existed. There's always this rise and fall. And
what is the point of that? That's again like saying, since if I look back at all of history, humans have always died. So does that, if I was like on trial for murder and I was like, look at all these people who died that I didn't kill, therefore I can't kill them. Like, because something can happen naturally doesn't mean that it can't happen unnaturally. Yes, a giant meteorite smashed into Earth at one time and killed 99% of all living things on Earth because it got hot. So he's like, that's fine. Last time it got hot, 99% of all life on Earth died. So that's fine. We don't have to worry about it. What a moron.
This idea that the whole thing is based on carbon emissions from human beings is total bullshit. Mm-hmm. It's not.
They're always based on carbon emissions. Every time it gets hot, and this article specifically says that. It points out that every single time it got hot was because of carbon emissions. Yes, sometimes the carbon emissions are natural, from thousands of volcanoes erupting at the same time, from mile-long meteorites smashing into the Earth and releasing carbon. Yes, carbon can get released naturally. And yes, naturally the Earth is way too hot to support life. But because of a lot of stuff that happened, where all this stuff died at one time, especially that meteorite or that asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs, it killed so many things at one time so quickly that all of this carbon got trapped underground. And then when it resurfaced again, the world was significantly cooler than it used to be back then because of all the carbon that's now trapped underground. So if we go back and release all that carbon back into the atmosphere, yes, it will go back to where it was normally back then, which is too hot for humans to live, too hot for us to grow any of the plants that we eat off of, too hot for any of the food that we live off of. So he's like, hey, it's fine. I mean, if it gets too hot and all of the plants and animals die off, we'll be fine. That's your brain's way of thinking. Give me a break.
True.
Right.
We might be having an effect, but we're having a small effect, a very small effect. And the other things are completely outside of our control, including solar activity, the distance between the Earth and the sun.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't read the article, because the article says exactly the opposite. You've got to be kidding me. The distance between the Earth and the sun, that is always the same. I mean, it's not always the same. It changes every year round. But I mean, that's been the same. It wasn't like 50 million years ago we were half as close to the sun. We've been in the same friggin' orbit for forever. That has nothing to do with this. Solar activity? What is he possibly thinking? The article that he just pulled up on screen says the exact opposite of what he's telling his audience. So either he read it and decided to 100% lie to his audience, which is ridiculously disrespectful to your viewers, or he didn't read it and is telling his audience that he did read it, which is super disrespectful to his viewers. I don't know why people watch this show. I mean, unless they're just making fun of him, which they have to be. They have to be watching him. Like I said, it's like those housewives shows. Like, you tune in to just watch someone make a fool of themselves. That has to be why people are watching. And maybe he's playing stupid on purpose, right? Maybe he's actually a smart guy and he knows how to do it. I would know how to do it. I would certainly be able to run one of these podcasts and just play dumb. I would know what to say that would make me sound really stupid and make people laugh at me. So he could be just pretending to be dumb to make the $1 million a year he's making. And maybe that's what he's doing.
You know, there's a lot of factors. There's all sorts of factors involving natural activities like volcanic emissions, you know, which devastate. You know, the entire human race was knocked down to a few thousand people.
Yeah.
The only reason why he knows there's these other factors, that volcanic emissions cause global warming, why does he know that? Because a climate scientist told him that. Why does he believe that our proximity to the sun has anything? Because a climate scientist told him that. Why does he think solar flares have it? Why does he even know that solar flares exist? Because a scientist told him that. All of the things he's saying, he only knows exists because a scientist told him that. And then he's saying, look, I don't know what any of these things are. I think it could be because of this. What? I don't know, that other thing that you mentioned. Well, if the climate scientist is the one telling you that these other sources are possible sources, and they've already accounted for them, you can't say, look, I've never heard of any of these things before in my entire life, but now that you mention the word, the first time I'm hearing it, I now suddenly know more than you about it. You're not allowed to bring up volcanic emissions because you wouldn't know those things existed unless the same scientist told you that. So you can't believe half of what they're saying and then not believe the other part of it.
At one point in time, because of the Toba volcano.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah, no light.
Yeah, no light for years.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck. And the people that survive are fucking barbarians.
Yeah.
The most savage. And then it takes a long time before they can figure out civilization again after that.
Right. It's like dinosaurs. They just stop.
Mm-hmm.
So what did they evolve into?
Chickens.
I guess.
Birds, raptors.
Yeah.
Well, they think a lot of dinosaurs had feathers now.
Yeah.
That's the newest thing.
Yeah.
This is painful. The dinosaurs just stopped. What did they evolve into? So, like, he thinks that when he dies, he evolves into a different animal? What is he... It's like they're both just talking and not even listening to each other or themselves.
Maybe.
You don't think so?
I don't know. I need to take a pee. I'm so
Okay,
desperate.
let's take a peek. Let's take a peek. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Yeah, so the purpose of this whole thing is for me to watch these people and tell you whether I think they're being scammed or if they're scamming you, right? I'm going to go so far with Joe is definitely scamming you. Yes, I think he's probably somewhat of an idiot, and I bet he does fall for stuff. As a matter of fact, I know people in this industry that specifically target him. Customers will come to businesses like ours and tell us, like, we want you to write this fake story and get Joe to talk about it. If you can get Joe to talk about it, I make a ton of money. Joe won't get paid for it because I trick him into it. I write a stupid article. Joe reads it. He makes this article super popular, and then I get paid, tens of thousands of dollars because I got Joe to talk about whatever this, customer wanted me to get him to talk about. So I know he falls for these things, but I'm not positive whether he's pretending to be dumb or if he's really dumb. Mel Gibson, on the other hand, very clearly he's being scammed by people. He comes across as somebody who's not a very brilliant guy. Seems like a very easy mark. I'm sure that he gets scammed out of money all the time. I'm sure that scam artists that scam people for money are all over him. I mean, you can see a mark easy from a mile away, and very few people stand out as much of a mark as Mel Gibson does to me. Seems like that guy's very, very easy to scam. But I'm going to cut this one here, and maybe I'll do the second half of it at another time, but it's too much. I don't understand what these guys are doing. So I'm going to call it, as far as the show, he's scamming you. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoy this type of content, please like and subscribe. If you have any videos or topics that you'd like me to take a look at, please leave them in the comments below.